What was the proudest moment of your life? When I helped my neighbor's kid, who everyone had written off as the problem child. I live in a pretty average neighborhood. You know, the kind where everyone has those little flags by their mailboxes and people argue about whose turn it is to mow the shared patch of grass between sidewalks. Nothing special, just working folks trying to keep their lawns decent enough to avoid HOA fines. There was this kid next door, Jaden, always wearing the same faded blue hoodie, even in summer when it hit 90 degrees. He'd sit on his porch just throwing pebbles at nothing while his mom worked double shifts at the hospital. I'd wave sometimes, but he'd just look down at his worn-out sneakers. The neighbors complained constantly. He knocked over Mrs. Peterson's flower pots. He's skipping school again. He was caught shoplifting candy at the corner store. Pretty soon, everyone just expected trouble from him. The local cop knew him by name and would slow down whenever he saw Jaden walking alone. What nobody knew was that Jaden's dad had left 2 years ago, just packed up and disappeared on a Tuesday. No goodbye, no child support, nothing. The kid was basically raising himself on microwave dinners while his mom tried to keep them afloat. I noticed Jaden always staring at my garage when I was fixing up my old '87 Chevy. One Saturday morning, I just called out, "Wanna hand me that 3/8 wrench?" His eyes lit up like I'd offered him $1 million. Turns out the kid was incredible with engines. Could diagnose problems just by listening. "That's a timing belt issue," he said first day before I'd even figured it out myself. He started coming over after school, hands always covered in grease, asking questions nonstop about carburetors and fuel injectors. One afternoon, I found a crumpled math test in his backpack when he went to grab a sodas from my fridge. 27% with a note saying, "See me after class." When I asked about it, he just shrugged. "Numbers don't make any sense to me. Teacher says I don't try, but I do." That's when it clicked. I pulled out the car manual and asked him to calculate the right oil-to-fuel ratio for the engine. He got it instantly. The kid wasn't dumb. He just needed things to be practical, to matter in the real world. I started teaching him math through car repairs. If this part costs $43 and we need 3 of them, plus tax at 8.25%, what's our total? Science through explaining how engines work. Why does metal expand when it's hot? What happens to gas when it's compressed? His mom cried when he brought home his first C+. Found her on their porch one night after shift, just silently crying and clutching that test paper. "Nobody's ever taken time with him before," she whispered. The changes were small at first. He started showing up with his homework done. The principal called less. The officer started waving first instead of slowing down. But Jaden still kept to himself, still had that guard up. Last week was the county's junior mechanical competition. Jaden entered with a small engine he'd rebuilt from literal junk we found at the scrapyard behind the railroad tracks. The parts were mismatched. Bits from an old lawnmower, pieces from a busted dirt bike, even parts from an ancient washing machine. But somehow, he made them work together. The judges couldn't believe a 14-year-old had done the work. When they announced first place, Jaden froze. His name echoed through the community center, but he couldn't move. I had to nudge him forward. "That's you, kid. That's all you." As he walked up, I noticed something. He wasn't wearing his hoodie. Instead, he had on a clean button-up shirt his mom must have bought for the occasion. His hair was combed neatly for the first time since I'd known him. The prize was $500 and a summer apprenticeship at the local auto shop. But the real moment came after, when the shop owner shook Jaden's hand and said, "Kid, you've got a future in this. Real talent doesn't come along often." Jaden turned to look at me, eyes shining, and whispered, "Did you hear that? A future." And that right there, watching him rebuild himself piece by piece, just like those engines, that's the proudest I've ever been. Not because I did anything special, but because all it took was someone to look past the label everyone else had given him.